What is happening, guys? Today I am going to give you a guide for Monster Hunter, but a little different type of guide. You may have watched some guides already. This is a guide for the noobs by a noob. I am totally new to Monster Hunter. This is my first Monster Hunter Wilds game, and when I played the beta, I had no idea what I was doing, and I felt so lost. And after playing for a few hours now in the main story, I have a little bit more of a grasp of how to play this game. Now, before we get into this guide, don't worry, there will be no story spoilers. We're going to be staying around in the first area, the beginner area, so you don't have to worry about any types of spoilers. Now, if you're new to my channel, I am a Souls player. I make guides for Souls games, and I beat Souls games and do Let's Plays on Souls games. I'm a Souls player. So coming into this game, I didn't know really what to expect. I've heard all the hype for Monster Hunter over the years, always wanted to get into it, but it always seemed like a daunting experience. So today I'm going to give you a guide that is going to be for the noobs. If you are an experienced player, or you have any experience at all in Monster Hunter, this video is not for you. I highly recommend going and watching Fighting Cowboys guide, or maybe Rage Gaming's guide. Both those guides are fantastic for returning players to the series. This is going to be your very basic guide for if you're just brand new to the series, and it's going to welcome you into this world that can seem very overwhelming, but when we break things down, you're going to notice everything is going to kind of flow pretty well. Now, first thing you're going to notice when you boot up the game is you're going to notice the controls feel very, very weird. They have a slight delay, you move with your character, and your character moves a little slower than other games. That is by default. A matter of fact, it took me a long time to even figure out, just the basic stuff, like even rolling and dodging and stuff, just because this is not a Souls game. This is very, very different. So the basic controls are moving, dodging with A. If you tap it, you crouch. When you're standing, so if you just tap it when you're standing, you just crouch, and you can crouch around. Like if you're sneaking up on a monster, you can do that. This game is a very slow, methodical game too. It's a game where you're supposed to enjoy the hunt. Well, that's why it's called, hence Monster Hunter. So all these little things that I'm going to show you that are very, will just give you the most out of your gaming experience. So this is just how you crouch. It's how you dodge with A. Other things you can do here, if you notice, if you hold down the left trigger, you pull up a little reticle. Now with this reticle, if you tap B when you're seeing items in the distance, you shoot out a little slinger and you can pull items in. This is very handy when you're riding around on your mount. Because you can just be riding around your mount and then be like, oh, there's something there, I want to grab it right there. I can just snap it, boom, pull it right back in. Now, another thing we can do with our slinger, now in this game, you're supposed to use the environment to your advantage. So when you're fighting a monster, let's say we're fighting something right here, I happen to notice this falling boulder. If I can position this monster under this falling boulder, I can use my slinger, pull that down, and yield a monstrous amount of damage on that monster. This is a game where when you're hunting, you need to use strategy. And that's one of the reasons I really, really am falling in love with this game, because I am all about strategy thinking. And when you're fighting a monster, it's not just you fighting the monster, rolling around, doing attacks. It's you with the environment, with this monster, with all this stuff you can use to take out the monster. So it's really, you can use other things. Like if I wanted to, if I was fighting a monster, I could get some of this endemic life to probably follow me over and help fight this monster if I wanted to. That endemic life would die instantly because it's weak, but it might like distract the monster just enough for me to get like an extra hit in or two. So it's pretty cool how you can use the environment all around too. Like some of these trees have traps, which we'll talk about here in a little bit, but using the environment is very important to taking out monsters. So before I get too off topic here, we're going to go back to the slinger. So when you hold down L2, you have access to the slinger. Now with the slinger, you can grab items, you can grab environmental things to your advantage. It's just a very cool little tool to have. Now with this slinger though, you can load the slinger like a slingshot. With that, if you hold down LB, you're going to pull up your menu. So on the bottom right, if you select B and A, you can select through this stuff. Now, there's some things you have unlimited amounts of, like throwing knives. When I'm hunting a monster, I usually like to have throwing knives on by default, because if it's on by default, it's automatically going to be equipped. And if I want to just like, if I wanted to like coax a monster out, now these aren't going to do a lot of damage to a monster, but if I hold down the reticle and I tap R2, so not circle, I can still use this to sling, but if I tap R2, then whatever is loaded is going to shoot out, and it's automatically going to reload. So if I wanted to say load up a, let's see here if I have anything else, a capture net. So if I have a capture net, if I want to put that into my slingshot, I load that here, it's going to load in, and then I can look out with there, say I want to capture something, some endemic life or something, small endemic life. I don't think I can capture a big endemic life. I've never tried this. No, you can't. But you shoot out a net. You see, whatever's equipped in your slinger, when you use R2, you shoot it out and whatever's loaded. And you can still use your regular slinger too. So if you have items you're trying to collect, you can still grab those. Oh, endemic life comes up, I can grab that with a sling. So just it takes a while to use it, to learn it, but once you learn it, it flows really well. So if we wanted to look at other things, also this is how you use traps. If you have traps in here, if you also have a barbecue grill, all this stuff can just be loaded right into your slinger and used. If you wanted to use a dung pod, which I think the dung pods, if I remember right, make other monsters run away. So if you have a monster you're fighting and other monsters are involved and you don't want them there, you can just load up a dung pod and shoot that out at the other monster. But each thing that you have in here has different things. You know, you can load your well-done steaks in here, which will give you a little bit of health and buffs. But this is going to be used a lot when you're fighting monsters, when you're going around the world. You can load in your binoculars. You wanted to use those. It's kind of like your tool belt. But in a way, if you're just new to the series, that can seem very daunting. It took me surprisingly very long, very, very long to learn how to use just the most simplest stuff in this game. Now, if you notice too, when we're holding down the left bumper, by pulling up this, we can switch through all this. We can also go through our action menu at the top. So we have communication, we have essential items, we have ammo if you're using if you're using a type of a weapon that uses ammo, and then you have an action. So your action one is going to be your default. Your left is going to be health on this. So on this radial menu, you have your health, you have your whetstone to be able to sharpen your blades, you have your SOS flare if you want to summon help, and optimal status recovery. So this is all added. You can all change this too. You can change this back at your tent to whatever you want. I have this set up the way I like it. But like I said, that's your ammo, essential items, everything's that's in your menu down there. You can also get to here if you like this. But I personally like, when I play, I like to keep this in action, and I just like to cycle through with B and X. I just feel like that works better that way. If I do get hit, I can easily get health real quick. Now, talking about all those buttons and everything, let's talk a little bit about general settings and what I kind of recommend for people just getting into the game. I recommend going through these and setting them to what you want. A few that you might want to check out is just some things like this. Head armor visibility. I like to hide that just because I like to see the head on my character. I take the time to create my character and make it look like me, so I like to see that. So little things like that. If you switch through the settings, you can adjust that kind of stuff. Speaking of that, though, we want to go to controls. This is a very handy menu. There's going to be things in this game that can be very beneficial for different players of different weapons. And we'll talk about that a little more later, but this is one that you need to look at. For melee weapons and ranged weapons, press LT to toggle mode for focus and press it to activate. So let me show you the difference of these. If this is set to activate on holding, there's a thing called focus mode. Now focus mode is when you're using your weapon. Now we'll talk about weapons later, but just a little bit here. Focus mode is when you're zoomed in on a wound on the hunt that you want to hit, or you're in this mode that's a very focused mode, hence the word focus. Now you can do this by the type that you can hold it there like this. Some weapons work better like this. Like for Greatsword, I personally like to hold it because on Greatsword we don't spend a ton of time in focus. Depending on the weapon you use, you might spend more time in focus. So if you want to have it where it stays in focus, you might want to tap this option right here to toggle mode. When you toggle it, then you just have to tap LT and it will stay in focus mode, and you can take your fingers and put them on other buttons while leaving it off, and you'll stay in focus mode until you tap it again. Some other settings you might want to mess around with here too is weapon focus, horizontal camera sensitivity aiming focus, and vertical camera sensitivity aiming focus. This just adjusts the camera speed at how fast it moves when you're in focus. Now, for some weapons, it doesn't really matter, but for Greatsword, when I'm trying to get off a true charge slash, and I'm trying to do this, if I go off to the left, I want to be able to turn my reticle fast. If the monster is moving, I want to be able to stay with the monster to be able to do my true charge slash. So that's going to be dependent on the weapon that you choose to use, but by default, I recommend having that be a lot faster than it is set up by default. When it comes to graphics settings, I did a whole video on graphics. You can just look at my channel for that in my guides. I will try to pin that here in the top left or right hand corner. For those of you that will need to see how to increase your FPS, I have a whole video on that, so make sure and check that out. If we go past that, we have just sound, stuff like that for color blindness. Nothing else really matters, but I do recommend going through the settings and setting them to your personal preferences. Now we're going to talk about our personal mount secret. Now you can name this thing whatever you want. I named mine Geralt from The Witcher. But if you press the up button on the directional tab, you're going to mount your secret. Now, with your secret, I recommend changing a few settings. If we go into options, and we go to the first setting on game settings and go down to Secret Auto Explore, highly, highly recommend turning this to off. If you don't have this off, your secret is going to constantly walk around and run even when you're telling it not to. So it's going to constantly be trying to take you places when you're just trying to basically like just check out an area, and it's going to be kind of like an auto mode. I changed this to off. I recommend it. That way you can just kind of, if you wanted to sit on your secret, look around, everything feels a little more in your control, manual. I've heard a lot of people saying, oh, the secret controls I hate. Well, they don't. A lot of people don't know about that option. If you turn that off, you have total control over your secret. If you want it to stop, you hold down the right trigger, and as you see, everything in this game, all the controls are in the top right hand corner. For everything you do, whether you're in a fight, in a monster fight, riding your secret, all of this can easily be learned just by looking at the top. If you want to speed up, you tap RB. If you want to slow down, you tap RT. If you want to stop, you hold RT and it's going to halt. All that can be up there. When we're on our mount, we can do a lot of things. When we're on our mount, we can easily use our slinger to pick up stuff along the way, so we don't have to get off to collect things, unless it's like if it's ore or something like that, then we have to get off and mine it. But other than that, everything else can just be collected by riding around on your secret. So very, very nice there. That will feel very easily flow once you change that setting too. Some other things we can do on the secret is pull out our weapon. Now, weapon attacks on a secret are never going to be ideal. You don't want to. This is not a game where you're running around with your weapon swinging at the monster. I mean, you can do it every now and then, but ideally, if you're going to use your mount in a battle, it's going to be to get away from the situation, and we're not going to fight that right now. So if I don't get interrupted by the Dashaquama over there, like I was saying, it's in a battle, you're going to use your mount to get yourself away from trouble, and you're also going to use it to get mounts. So when you're running up to a monster, we'll talk about that later, but you'll jump off and you can get mounts on the monster, or you can also too, which is also cool, jump off and use your mount to attack. So basically just free jump attacks, just little things you can do with your monster. And real quick, that brings up something else I want to talk about, and that's sheathing your weapon. We want to go into options, we want to disable auto sheath. So under control settings, this menu right here, auto sheath, we want to disable that. Auto sheath is going to get you killed. If that is on in the middle of a battle, when you're just standing there with your weapon out, your character will automatically auto sheath it. So if you're walking around the monster and that setting is on, your character will randomly do this, and then you'll be like, oh, I can't attack. Oh, I can't attack. And you're going to get killed. So disable auto sheath, keep that on manual mode, and learn to manually sheath your weapon. So that brings out the weapons. Now, we're going to talk about the weapons in detail a little bit more, but for general speaking, this is going to be like a miniature little thing on how to use your weapon. So at all times, it's going to be on your back until you click X. I'm sorry, not X. See, I'm such a noob to this game. It'll be on your back until you click Y. Y is going to unsheath your weapon. X will put your weapon back on your back, or wherever you store it. So Y is how you unsheath it, and you never want to be walking around with your weapon unless you have a fast weapon, say like dual blades. Dual blades, you can run around with dual blades and be fine, but if you're using a bigger weapon, like I'd say 80% of the weapons in this game are, you're never going to walk around with your weapon. You're either going to be rolling around with your weapon in a fight, or you're going to manually sheath it, you're going to run up to the monster, and then you're going to pull it out and hit. And get your attacks, and if the monster moves too far away, you're going to sheath the weapon, close the distance, maybe jump on your secret, come in with a jump attack, and unsheath. Those are ways to... That's something that you have to learn. This is what broke me. It took me forever to learn, because in a Souls game, you always have your weapon unsheathed. In a battle, you just use your weapon and you attack the monster rolling around. You're going to get yourself killed in a game like this. You cannot walk around with your weapon out. That's definitely not the way to go. Like I said, you can roll with it. Different weapons have different ways of getting around, but manually speaking, always sheath your weapon to walk around or get closer to the monster and then unsheath and attack. And as you see with the weapon, when the weapon is unsheathed in the right-hand corner, it says what you can do with it. It says what kind of attacks you have. So if you do combos, it's going to tell you kind of what to do for your combos. That right-hand corner is so important for new players because you can learn so much from that. So just a little thing to pay attention to there. Now, before we get into the weapon talk, I want to talk a little bit about traversal and just moving around on the map. So when you pull up your map, that is the left select option. That's going to pull up this map. Now, this map seems kind of daunting at first, I'm not going to lie. You can't really see things. You're like, where do I go? Honestly, this is a really well done map, and I complained about it a ton in the beta because I didn't know how to use it. But if you see on your little directional pad right here, I wonder if it's showing my cursor. It should be. This mode right here, we want to activate that. So if we tap over, we have fast travel list, we have filter icons, we have environmental overview, and we have a monster threat level. Now, monster threat level, not going to be used for new players like us. We're more concerned about these two right here, which is fast travel list, which allows us to fast travel to these locations, and along with any base camps that you set up too in the game, you can also, they'll be listed here as well, so you'll be able to fast travel to all those. And then you also have your filter icons. This is super helpful. So when you click on a filter icon, let's say we want to find ore. We want to level up our weapons. We're dying a lot. We need to level up our weapons. We're not doing good. We're going to search for this thing called Mining Outcorp. And on the map, it's going to highlight all your Mining Outcorps. So say if I wanted to go to that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tap my right stick in. I'm just going to tap the right stick. It's going to set a waypoint. And then I'm going to mount. And then my mount's going to take me to there automatically.
I'll go on ahead then.
I can go grab some coffee in the kitchen. I can make a pizza. Whatever. My mount is going to take me to my destination. So really a cool feature. And you can make it go faster too just by tapping the things in the right-hand corner. And you're going to see how this will take us all the way to our destination. And it's cool too because on this destination, we can, sharpen our blade if we think we're going to come and grab a hunt. We can do all kinds of stuff. We can heal. We can look at our radial menus. We can even go through the menus. We can just look at the map and prioritize stuff. We can ride around and we can collect stuff. And then it's going to take us at the end right to where we wanted to. So we would come out, and sometimes your Palico will actually mine that for you. But if it doesn't, you'll just go up to it and mine it. So real cool thing, whenever you're looking for something in the map, you're just going to go over filter icons, and you can do that. Say you need like a flash fly. It's going to tell you where all the flash flies are. A giant vigor wasp. You're trying to make potions. Oh, look at that. There's one there. There's one there. Real easy. Really cool how they did that. You're never going to be looking around for stuff in this game being like, where do I find this item? It's always, everything is unlocked in your filter icons at all times. So use this at all costs. This is very smart. When you're going into a fight, let's say you need thorn grass pod, you can easily find one there, pick it up, boom, you're good to go. So very good to know this, very useful to know. Now, I know I mentioned base camps. Base camps are little mini camps that you can set up in different areas of the game. When you're riding around, your Palico will basically say this would be a good place for a base camp. When that happens, all you're going to do is switch into your bottom thing on the bottom right hand corner, and you're going to go to the camping kit And as you see, I can't put a campsite here because it's not a designated area. But when that happens, all you do is load that up, and then you can set up a camp in a camping area that's set. And whenever you set up a camping area, then you can fast travel to it. So if you set up a camping area here, then all of a sudden in your fast travel list, that base camp would be set up in there. It would be listed in here. Sadly, we just can't set up camps wherever we want, though. I wish we could. That'd be really cool. But you can only set up camps in the designated areas. And those designated areas are marked on the map. Now, those areas do not come up in the filters list, but if you zoom in and look for these little sites right here, these little, like, posts with a little camp sign picture, this is a place where I could put a camp if I wanted to. So if you look around on the map, you can try to find those other places. I know there's a few. There's one over here. But they did just take a little looking to find them. I don't know why they're not in the filters icon. They should be, but they're not. So just a little thing to know. Look for those, and you can set up campsites at those areas. Another cool thing to mention about campsites, too, is let's say we're fighting a monster out here in the desert, and he decides to fly away and move to way the heck over there, and we don't want to have to ride and follow him. We can easily just fast travel to this site right here once we set up a camp, and then be right there to fight him. We can save a lot of time on hunts doing that. So my recommendation is when you find those campsites, go ahead and set up a camp. You never know when you might need it. And that way, when you have it, it's just going to be in your list to be able to grab it. And the last thing is just fast travel. Fast travel is very simple. If you want to fast travel, all you're going to do is click fast travel, click the area you want to go to, and click it. And you're just going to fast travel to that location. It's going to load up almost instantly. And you're going to be back at your base camp, or whatever camp you fast traveled to. Now we're going to talk about weapons and how you should pick your weapon. So my recommendation, go to the base camp, and we're going to go back here. Now you might not even know about this little place. You might know about it, but maybe not. We're going to run up here. We're going to run back into this little cave. And we're going to enter the training area arena. Now this place is amazing. You can test out weapons, see damage numbers, learn combos, all on this dummy back here. I've used this thing so much. It's cool because whenever you pull a weapon, it's going to say, oh, true charge combo, I can learn this combo. I use Y. I use Y again. And then I use Y one more time. And that's the true charge slash. See how I can learn my weapon using this dummy. The cool thing, too, is I can modify this dummy. If I wanted this dummy to attack me, all I have to do is go over here. And I can change the settings on the dummy. So all I do is go through here. I want to change training settings. Say I wanted it to attack me. So training settings, we're going to select mode. We're going to say smash mode. We can do throw mode and or automatic. So we're going to just do smash mode so you can see that. So smash mode, apply changes. Now it's going to try to smash me. Now I'm not going to take any damage here at the camp. It's just training. So, but if I wanted to practice blocking, I could easily, you know... Oops. Well, if you're close enough, that is. So I can practice my perfect blocks. So it's very cool how you can come in here and just practice, learn your weapon, master things. If you wanted to learn everything like that. You know, this is just a really cool thing to have access to. So definitely recommend using this dummy. Now the other thing we can do here is there's a tent right here. Now whenever we see a tent, chances are we can use the tent. So keep that in mind. When we're in this tent, we can mess around with weapons. Now this is a game of finding the weapon that works best for you. I recommend trying everything. Let the weapon choose you. You don't choose the weapon in this game, the weapon chooses you. Now, if you're just new to this game like I am, here are the weapons I recommend trying out. Great sword, sword and shield, hammer, lance, dual blades, and bow. That's what I recommend trying if you're new to this game. Now, if you want to experiment with some trickier weapons, you can try switch axe, which is really fun once you learn it. You can try the longsword, which is really fun once you learn it. The hunting horn, which is a very difficult weapon to master, but it's pretty cool once you learn it. Gun lance is very fun, one of my favorite weapons. It's just so freaking cool, everything that can do, but it's very difficult to learn as well. Charge blade is the hardest weapon to learn in the game, but it is the most rewarding weapon once you learn it. I have not learned that one yet myself. Light bowgun for if you wanted to play more of a ranged, and heavy bowgun for even farther ranged. So I'm going to demonstrate these weapons just so you can see and get a little idea which ones fit your needs. First up, we have the greatsword. Now, I'm not going to talk about each weapon. I'm just going to give you a general overview. The greatsword is very slow. It's very slow, but it's very powerful. It has some of the strongest attacks in the game per swing. So check it out if you're looking for more strategy type of weapons, because it's slower, but also it's such a fun weapon. It's my favorite weapon in the game. Next, we have Sword and Shield. Sword and Shield is very basic, but very good. The reason why is because it has access to everything. It has a block. It also has a very fast attack. So you can learn very easy combos too. It's a very good learning weapon to get into the game, just because of its fast mobility, very easy to use, very easy to learn, and just an all-around great weapon. So check this out if you just want something very easy to learn to get into the game. Next up, we've got Hammer. Hammer is if you just want to bonk things. This is just an all-around fun-ass weapon to play with because of all the just really fun things it can do, the good cool combos. It's a blast. As you see the damage it does too, just the blunt attacks, and it's just a fun weapon to play with. So if you just want to bonk things, knock things down a lot, and also have very well mobility, the only thing is Hammer does not have a block. Hammer does not have a perfect block, so just keep that in mind. There is no way to block with the Hammer. I wish you could put it up like a block, because I think I'd be playing with that rather than a greatsword if that was the case. But then maybe the Hammer would be too OP if it did have a block. So just keep that in mind. No block, but very, very fun weapon if you like the smash stuff. Next, we have another very beginner weapon, and that is the Lance. The Lance is very fun to use just because of how basic it is. It has a perfect guard. That's one of the easiest to use in the game with the most forgiving time, too. So if you wanted to, if I can do it, if I can time this right, and you can combo that with blunt attacks and poke attacks, so it's very, very, very basic to use. You know, it's a hide behind shield and poke type of weapon, but it's also very versatile and also real easy to use, real easy to learn, just a fun weapon altogether. Next, we have another personal favorite of mine, and that's the Switch Axe. The Switch Axe has two modes. It has Axe mode, which is going to hit with blunt attacks, and that's also going to have your sword mode. Now, you're going to have to learn the proper way to use this, but what's cool is you can switch between axe and sword to create some devastating combos and just really have a good time. So, it's a fun weapon, but this one does take some time to learn. I would not say this is a beginner weapon by any means, but it is a very, very fun weapon. Next, we have the Insect Glaive. Now, the Insect Glaive is your basic pole blade. If we wanted to refer this to as the closest thing we have to a pole blade in this game from like Souls games, this is your fast, efficient, very mobile, tactile pole blade. Very, very fun weapon, very mobile. Lots of combos you can do with this. This one also does take a while to learn, though, too. Fighting Cowboy has just amazing videos on all these weapons. Highly recommend go watching them if you want to learn a weapon. But yeah, if you're looking for a pole blade, this is going to be your go-to. Next up is the first of our ranged weapons. That is the heavy bowgun. Now, the thing about the heavy bowgun, this is a weapon that you get more attack damage the farther you are away from the enemy. So the farther I am away, the more damage I'm going to do to this monster. However I want to do that. So this is the weapon that if you like to stay farther away from battle, this is the weapon to do it. If you don't want to be up close and you want to be far, then this is going to be your go-to. It's also very heavy though, so remember that. But yeah, it's going to be a very, very niche type of weapon in my opinion. Next, we have a sword for all the anime fans, the longsword. This is a favorited sword in the series by players, and for many reasons, just because of the flashy anime effects. You wanted to do cool things like that, but this does take a long time to learn. Like I said, Fighting Cowboy has videos on how to learn all these weapons, but if you wanted a weapon with a lot of versatility, a lot of mobility, fast mobility to move, with a very rewarding skill tree, then this is definitely the weapon for you. But like I said, this does take a while to learn and takes a long time to master, so this is a weapon to have patience with. But it is the anime sword. So if your mobility is your thing, you're going to love this next pick. Dual blades. I love the dual blades. They're one of my favorite weapons in the game. They're so fast. They have 2 modes, demon mode and arc demon mode. If you want to just get tons of DPS, damage per second, you know, move around the battlefield, do all these cool combos, then this is going to be the play for you. Just a very, very fun weapon. Definitely check out the dual blades. Very easy to learn too. They got a very easy learning curve. Next, I would say we have one of the weirdest weapons, especially if you're like me coming from a Souls background. When have you ever been able to hit things with a giant horn in a game? Me, I've never found a game to be able to do that till now. The cool thing about the hunting horn is it's basically like the hammer, but it's also a support weapon. It's very rewarding once you learn it, but it's a very difficult weapon to learn. I myself have not learned this one yet, so I do not even know how to play this. But once you learn it, it's a very rewarding one, and plus it's also support. So if you're playing with a team, this is a great weapon to help support your team, as well as just deal a lot of blunt damage. And it seems like it could just be a very fun weapon to play too, once you learned all the combos. So if you're wanting for something a little more complicated, but definitely rewarding and fun, check out the hunting horn. And then we have Shields Up Iron Breakers. That's Rurikhan on YouTube. If you want to learn all about this weapon, this is his weapon. Look up Rurikhan, and he's going to teach you how to use the Gun Lance. Gun Lance is very fun, very rewarding, very powerful, but it does take a long time to learn and a very, very long time to master. But it can just do some super raw damage, and once you learn the combos, it's just a fun weapon. I mean, look at this. Yeah, that's the power of the Gun Lance. So fun, but also takes a while to learn as well. And then we have the Charge Blade. This is the hardest weapon to learn in the entire game. This thing has a long learning curve, a lot it can do, but very, very rewarding once you learn it, just because of all it can do. I personally don't even know how to do the basics of this weapon, so I'm not gonna pretend I do. And if you want to look this up, you know, look up a guide, look up Fighting Cowboys guides. He has all guides on all these weapons, but this is definitely one of the hardest, if not the hardest weapon to learn in the entire game, but it might be up your alley. I've heard that once you learn this weapon, it is people's favorite weapon in the game, so definitely might be something worth learning. So let's say you're a fan of the Bowgun, but you don't feel like being way far away. Then we have the light Bowgun. The light Bowgun is a weapon pretty mobile. You can roll around pretty quick, fire off. If you want to stay close up to the monster. I mean, it's just a very mobile gun, but also you can stay real close up, and you get rewarded for staying closer. So this is just the opposite of the heavy Bowgun. If you didn't like the heavy, but you like the bow, you might as well try this out. It might be up your alley. One more thing on the light Bowgun. This is a great side piece to have. You can carry 2 weapons in this game, one on your secret and one on your back. So this is a great one that I like to sometimes carry on my secret if I'm going on a hunt that I don't know how it's going to go, because that way I can, you know, fight some of the fights real up close with my greatsword, and then if I feel like there's a situation where I can't deal with the greatsword, I can easily be like, oh, okay, I'm going to take advantage of getting some extra damage with my light Bowgun. This is also very helpful when you drag another monster into a fight to help you fight another monster. So let's say you're fighting a monster and another monster gets involved. What I like to do is jump on my secret, switch to light Bowgun, jump off, hide from a distance a little bit, and just pound off some extra damage while the monster is fighting that other monster. And then once the other monster flees, I switch back to my main weapon and get back on with the hunt the way I usually do. Just a very cool thing you can do, though. And last but not least, for all the Robin Hood fans out there, we have the bow. Bow is very, very fun to use. It has some of the best mobility in this game and some of the most rewarding mobility when you get a dodge perfect. I'm going to see if I can do it perfect here. I'm going to try that again. I'm going to try that again. That little noise that makes, you can time it perfect. You can use different ammo. when you lock on, it does, I mean, it's just a very, very fun weapon to use. But if you like Robin Hood, want to use a bow, it's not that bad to learn. I'd say it's one of the easier weapons to learn, so I'd say easy weapon to learn, hard weapon to master. If you want to try to master the bow, there's a lot to it, but definitely check that out. But at the end of the day, you have to find the weapon that allows the weapon to choose you. You have to play around with it, and you'll know when you find the right weapon. It'll click with you, and you'll be like, yes, this is the right weapon for me. And don't lock yourself down either. Play with a few weapons. Maybe even try maining a few. Like on my current playthrough, I'm doing Great Sword and Dual Blades, but I find myself gravitating more toward the Great Sword just because it is my favorite weapon. But definitely play around. Don't lock yourself down. All these weapons are very fun, and also step outside your comfort zone. The gun lance is something I thought I'd never like, and I messed around with it, and I really, really enjoy that. That's such a satisfying weapon to play with. So let the weapon choose you, and you'll know when you find it. Last but not least, guys, we get to hunting. So the first thing you do when you're getting ready for a hunt is you're going to go inside your tent. We're going to go to transfer items. This is going to be your item pouch. Now you only want what's in your item pouch to be useful for the current fight that you're going to be doing. You don't want a lot of extra fluff, because if you do, it's going to be hard to get to it. So I like to go through, I like to take out things I know I'm not going to use. Like, you can read about it too. Luminous essence from an insect that emits powerful flash when it dies, used to create flash pods. I'm going to take that out. Bitterbug broth. I'm going to take that out. Slash berry. I'm basically going to clear out everything that I don't need on this fight. So nitro mushroom, smoke nut. I don't need any of that stuff. That stuff I could keep. I'm not going to use it, but I just could keep it in there. That I don't need. That I don't need. Things we do need though, we want rations. We want health. So if your health is low, like 1, you're going to go down here and you're going to grab more health. Make sure and always stock up on your health. Always top those off. Top those off, and also top rations off too if you need more rations. But it looks like we need to make more though for us to have more. So, but other than that, you just want to have what's in the top. That's what you're going to take with you. This is your item box in your tent that you don't have access to at the time of the hunt. So if you want access to it, you're going to switch it to up here in this list up here somewhere. So this is going to be a personal preference, but set it up to the way you want it to be. The next thing we do is once we have what we want in our hunt, then we're going to go to grill a meal. We always want to be fed on the hunt. So you can cook with rations, or you can add ingredients and cook yourself. So if you wanted to add ingredients, you could cook a recommended meal, or you could cook only with rations and cook a recommended meal like that. So I'm just going to add ingredients and cook. You're going to see this awesome cutscene that plays off with amazing looking food that will always make you hungry. And you can also just skip the cutscene. And that's going to give you your health and stamina. So when you go into a fight, you always want that little buff, because that buff could be the difference between you living and dying. And after that, we're good to go. Once we have our weapon, make sure you select your weapon. For me, I like to know a little bit about the monster that I'm going to go hunt. So this is just going to be a super simple Chotacabra hunt. So I'm going to pull out my greatsword. And usually on a hunt where I don't know exactly what I want to bring, I might bring a secondary greatsword with a different effect. So I might bring my paralysis greatsword. This paralysis greatsword will inflict paralysis, 250 damage of paralysis, or I might want to bring a different physical greatsword. That's all going to be dependent on you, but I'm going to personally look for what I have for what I want for this fight. So for me, 140, 130. This is going to be my strongest greatsword, so I'm going to use this greatsword for this fight. And for a secondary, I'm just going to leave on a secondary greatsword. I'm not going to need a secondary for this fight. If it was a harder fight, I might bring, a light bowgun, so I could use what I talked about earlier. Or a different weapon completely. That's going to be completely up to you. But I won't need that. Next, if you wanted to change your equipment too, you can also put on different armor here. All this stuff, I'm just going to keep on the base armor. That should be fine for this hunt. But you can also change up all those, your talisman for little buffs. All that stuff can be really easily changed. And once you have your loadout, then we go to the hunt. Now there's a couple different ways to go to the hunt. You can do the hunt manually by just finding a monster out in the field at any times by clicking on your map. And you'll see the monsters walking around. Let's see what we got. We got a Chotacabra over here. We have that's about it. The monsters will always show up on the map if they're there, but we don't have very many to hunt, though. Oh, there's also a Chotacabra up here as well. So if you wanted to, you could mark it on the map with your fast travel and go attack it. Or another way, if they're not showing up, say you wanted to hunt something and it's not showing up, you can go 1SC quest, you can join a quest, optional quests, and you can select exactly what you want to hunt. So if I wanted to hunt a Chotacabra, I just select that. I can accept and depart, quick start, and I can accept the hunt. So you can either do it through the quest board or just through the open world. It's whatever you feel like doing. So once a hunt starts, you have time in the right-hand corner, over there with the little clock up there. That is going to show you your time that you have. If you hold down the LB, you can see time left. So time left, 49 minutes and 44 seconds. I have 49 minutes to take out this monster, or the quest has failed. So when I'm riding up into a hunt, I like to look around at things, maybe collect some stuff coming up to it just for my inventory, stock up on stuff like that. I also like to take my time and plan the situation. So Chotacabra's over there. I might want to plan out and throw a trap if I wanted to throw out a trap. You also just might want to look around at your environment too. If you're looking at your environment, you want to see what's available, you could do that as well. Let's see what we got here. What do we have that, throwing knives, whetstones, fishing. I don't think I brought any traps. I
gathered some materials too.
Yeah, I didn't bring any traps. So I'm just going to keep on throwing knives just for default. And then I am going to try, there's different ways you can do about it. You can try to get a sneak attack up on the monster. You can also try to get a mount. So the monster's right there. I'm going to try to get a mount to start the fight.
There! That's our target!
I'm going to ride up, press Y, and I didn't get the mount. So I'm going to, since I didn't get the mount, I'm going to go back on my secret and try it again. I'll try to get that mount. Because if we start out the fight with a mount, once we get a mount, there's a few things we can do. I like to take the weapon and attack, and I like to make 2 hits. One on the back, one on the head. And I go back and forth. Once I get that, I break the one in the middle. So I break the back one. I break the back, and that's going to break the front one automatically. That gets us off to a great start. Then we can start fighting this thing the way we want to fight it. So I'm going to get in some true start charge slashes. And I'm just going to take my time fighting this thing. See how I use focus mode to get myself around the monster? These are called wounds. When you go up to a wound, we can use focus. We can break those wounds. So kind of the main part of the game is trying to get those wounds and break those wounds. And if you ever get hit, tap your secret to have them pick you up. That way you can get out of battle. Your secret will save your life a lot. That way you can also come back. Big jump attack. This is a slow and methodical game. This is, especially with the greatsword, you know, depending on the weapon you take. Not all weapons Not all weapons are going to be slower paced like this, but if you're playing with a greatsword, this is the style of play. Aw, man. Thought we were going to kill it there. We probably would have killed it with a true charge slash. So once the monster moves, we have a few things. We don't want to just go chase the monster. We want to pick up everything we cut off of it. If we cut off a tail, this is the time to grab that tail. We want to pick up anything the monster dropped. So anything by, we kind of want to take our time. Like I said, this is one reason why I really fell in love with Monster Hunter, because it's such a slow, methodical game. It's so different than Souls, but it has some Souls aspects to it. You know, fighting bosses, obviously, but you just get to take your time and just enjoy the experience. Enjoy the hunt, you know. I grew up hunting in real life. I loved deer hunting, and this kind of brings me back to that, kind of in a way, just because of the slower, methodical play of it. So once we come up on the monster, then we can see a few things here. So you might be wondering, like, oh, is the monster regenerating health? Do I have to hurry up? No, the monster is not regenerating health. All it is sleeping. So we can come up with a few ideas here. We could plant bombs here if we wanted to. We could jump off on top and do a jump attack. We could also try to get a sneak attack if we're careful here. I'm going to try to get a sneak attack if I can. I'm going to pull out my weapon, walk up. Sometimes it'll prompt you, sometimes it won't. And if it doesn't, then I'm going to try to get, for the greatsword anyway, a true charged slash on this. So I'm going to hit this. And then this is the one I'm going to take. So I can get the monstrous damage off that. Because for my weapon, the true charge slash is how I'm going to make the most damage. And that's the hunt. So it's a good beginner monster. I recommend definitely killing him a few times, really getting your weapon down. And after the hunt then,
That's my partner.
we can sheath our weapon, and we always want to grab everything we can off the monster. If it's there, we want to carve it.
New data.
All that can be used to make weapons and stuff. So we want to make sure and get everything we want to. So if it dropped anything, we want to grab it.
Calm the mind and focus.
And once you get it all, then you can... Oh, we just missed some. See that? And then once we end the quest, we can end it, and that will complete the quest. And then once you complete a quest, you can go ahead and take all your stuff for the quest, send all the box. It's going to tell you a little status about the fight, how you did, guild points, that kind of stuff. And then it's just going to bring you back to the hut, the main base. And then post-hunt, what you kind of want to do is, you know, obviously restock your stuff, stop at the smith. Definitely, you know, check out what you can upgrade and stuff. If you're hunting a certain monster to try to upgrade stuff, you can go into your to the forge and look for what you want to do. So if you were trying to look for something for the Chotacabra, you know, you would look for that. Obviously, there's no weapon for that, but there is some armor though. If you wanted to get the armor for that, each monster has a set of armor, which is really cool. So forge, upgrade armor. You would just go down to the monster you killed, really easy, Chotacabra, and then you could go in through and craft the pieces that you wanted. I've already crafted all these, but if you wanted to, you could go ahead and craft all those. So it's pretty cool. Each monster has different sets of armor, so you can really have fun with this game with a lot of different fashion. You're coming from a Souls background, Souls fashion is what it's all about, so you definitely have that in this game. I'd say you have some of the best fashion in any game in this game, probably. So just some things there with the things you can do post-hunt. And that's basically it. This was about a 45-minute long guide for you guys. Hopefully it wasn't too boring. Like I said, this is for the noobs. This is for people like myself, brand new to the series. I hope this guide helped you. If it did, give it a like. Subscribe to the channel. I'm doing a full Let's Play of this game currently. Also guides. And make sure to check out that guide on Increase Your FPS so you can have 60 FPS and play this game as smooth with any rig. My guide works for any rig you have. You could have a cheap rig, expensive rig, doesn't matter. It will teach you how to get this beautiful looking game. But hope you guys enjoyed, and we'll see you guys next time. Thank you guys. Bye.